There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's Wednesday and you're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial from www.audibletrial.com/darkness. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or any MP3 player. We also want to welcome back to our show True Car. So when you're in the need for a new or used vehicle, make sure that you use True Car to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. All right, Tim, let's get into it. This week, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Tomorrow, we're going to look at the histories, mysteries, the Shroud of Turin as we come into Easter weekend. Friday, we're going to talk with Dr. Lauren Belge. She has written a book called Near Death in the ICU, Stories from Patients Near Death and Why We Should Listen to Them. She's got some compelling stories, and I did an interview with her on Coast to Coast on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. She is coming at us with all new stories. It'll be probably about 25% of what you heard on Coast, just as a setup. Okay. And then we've got new stories in different angles we're going to take a look at on Friday's show. Plus, a brand new Theater of the Mind direct from your buddy Darkness Dave. That's right. One of my own real life experiences will be fleshed out, and portraying the role of Tim Dennis. For the role, I was hard to get him, but he was available and was willing to sit in. I will have Tim Dennis doing the voice of Tim Dennis.
We don't have a different actor?
No.
Really?
No, we have no budget for that. It was you or a sock puppet.
Really?
Yeah. So I went with you.
What good is it having this Chris Jericho character if he doesn't pop in and play me every once in a while?
Yeah, I think he's in Ireland doing something more important than pretending to be you.
I mean, we couldn't get like Raven or Conan or Lance Storm or any of these
Conan
other...
O'Brien, I love that guy.
No, not Conan O'Brien.
Oh, wow, what's wrong with Conan O'Brien?
Conan the wrestler.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I always wanted to have him portray me.
Well, tonight, Tim, you can call on the angels to get the help in the future. Maybe one of them can help you.
I would hope so.
With the holiday coming up here and so many people dealing with strange times, right? We're looking for comfort. We're looking for a way to get help. And sometimes when we just feel fragile and broken, we want to know that we're not alone.
Right.
So I thought this would be a great topic to talk about. Lucinda Gabriel is joining us tonight. How to Talk to Angels, a practical guide to asking for guidance, comfort, and strength. And Lucinda is a civil engineer who decided to follow her soul's calling to write, teach, and inspire. She's an author, speaker, respected medium, and certified Reiki master. And she studied angel therapy with best-selling author Doreen Virtue and advanced mediumship with renowned medium Lisa Williams. And she's here with us this evening. Lucinda, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, you were a civil engineer. Were you sensitive? Were you seeing or hearing things that we would consider spiritual or paranormal in nature?
Well, I would say it actually started then when I started taking my courses to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. And that first summer, I was at university, and I was a little stressed out, with my classes. And a friend of mine had passed away in an accident, tragically, 6 months earlier. And I had a dream one night where he came to me in my dream, and he said to me, just take my hand and everything's going to be okay. And then a few days later, I was walking down this path to go to the residence to pick up my mail, and then I could feel him beside me, and actually before I felt him, I was kind of bent over laughing. I was doubled up in two, and I was just laughing and laughing. And all of a sudden, I realized, oh, my God, I'm all alone in this path. And I look around to see this anybody see me, because they're going to think I've lost my mind.
Right.
And that's when I realized that he was standing beside me, and that there was actually something in the afterlife. Because before that, I was 25 years old at the time, and before that, I hadn't really lost anybody, so I had no idea. I never thought about it. It wasn't a subject that came up for me because I hadn't lost anybody. So that was the first time that I actually had a visit from the other side.
When you have an experience like that and it opens up this new dynamic to your life, are you spending time questioning what you saw, what you experienced, or did you accept it that it was something supernatural?
I accepted it right away, and actually I started praying to him and talking to him every day. And I had about 3 or 4 experiences during that period where he came to me at a couple of times. And anyway, afterwards, like when I felt more relaxed and I was doing better in school and I kind of got control of my life, he kind of went away, and I never heard from him again for 10 years, actually. And it was 10 years later, I was working as an engineer. I was working for the government. I had a great job, making a big salary and the pension plan, the whole thing. And I had what you would call a dark night of the soul. And I cried out to God, and I said, look, if this is what life is about, I'm not staying around, because to me it didn't make sense, just to make money, to spend. Like, there was no purpose to my life. So, I spoke to God and I said, look, I need a purpose. I need to know that I'm here for something bigger than this. And then a series of events led me to Doreen Virtue and Lisa Williams. And after that, everybody that I knew that had died started to come to me. So every week I would have a visitor, and I would hear their name being repeated in my ear. And then, I knew they wouldn't leave me alone until I called their family and let the family know that they wanted to talk to them and that they had a message for them. So that's kind of how it got started.
Is that exciting when that door opens up and you start to make that kind of communication, or is it kind of unnerving and frightening at first?
Well, I would say at first it was still stressful. Like, I remember one night I went to bed and I rolled over, I turned the light off, and I could feel someone sit on the edge of my bed. I was living alone, I didn't have a cat, and I just knew somebody sat on the edge of my bed. And that just really freaked me out. So there were, a few instances like that in my life where I kind of got a little scared. But the more it went on, the more, I did readings with people and their families, the more loving that it was. And the more I realized how important this work was. One of my really good friends, actually her sister had died a year earlier. And so her sister showed up, and she just kept repeating her name in my ear. And so I called my friend, and, I had to tell her to come out of the spiritual closet and tell her, well, look, I kind of talk to dead people right now, and your sister's been hanging around for a week, and she'd really like to talk to you. So I gave my friend a meeting, and so we called up on the phone, and because she's in another city. And so I did this reading with her sister, and her sister, who had passed away, was saying, stop feeling guilty. You did everything you could. Just let me go. I'm happy. I wanted to go, and I'm with Mom now, and I'm okay. Just so let me go. And my friend had been seeing a psychologist for a year, trying to let go of this guilt. And she told me that this reading that we had together just changed her life, because she felt like her sister was really happy and at peace, and she was able to let go of the guilt. So that's when I realized what I was doing was really important.
The idea of communicating with the other side, people that have left the mortal coil and have moved on into a spiritual energy, that's one aspect that's, we could kind of wrap our head around. But the idea of
yes.
actually speaking to the angels, I mean, outside of prayer, we know that that's been a part of, the dogma of spirituality and theology, is that we can call on the angels, we can call on God and Mary and Jesus to help us and assist us. But in most cases, it's not something that we feel like we're getting any kind of reciprocal attention on. It's not like you pick up your phone, you call and talk to Lucinda, and she picks up and says, "Oh yeah, Dave, okay, I'll get right on that for you." Opening up to the idea of talking to the angels, calling upon them. I guess I've always had a guilt feeling with that. Like they've got more important things to deal with than Dave Schrader's problems today. How do we start to open that pathway so that we can communicate, get over our own insecurities and fears of doing this kind of communication, and start to get help and aid?
Well, I think that's an excellent question. And you see, I noticed when I was about 18 or 19 that there was already some sort of magic in my life. And, I felt like I was always at the right place at the right time. I met the right people. The right book came into my life. And, there was always something magical about that. And at that time, I felt it was the grace of God because I was raised Catholic, so I believed in God. And I had no ideas about angels back then. And I had this feeling in my heart come into my heart one day, like, I got to write a book about this one day, because I just felt everything was so magical. And I would ask my friends, like, well, do you guys notice this? And some people would call this synchronicities. And I've noticed over the years that I had a lot of synchronistic events that led me, one step after the other in the right direction. Even going to university, like some people would say, well, how does a civil engineer, end up talking to angels? Well, I believe in my heart that I was meant to be an engineer. I was meant to go that path because going to university helped me have confidence in myself that I wouldn't have otherwise. And a lot of the experiences that I started to have with the other side was during university. So I really believe that I was at the right place at the right time. And when I finally was guided back in 2003 to study with Doreen Virtue, and that's when I learned about the angels, well, that's when I realized that everything I had lived up until that point, which were, like, say, during 13 to 14 years, it was always the angels that were there guiding me. And to me at the time, like I said, I called it grace, the grace of God. But it was actually the angels that were always putting me on the right path, leading me in the right direction, bringing the right people in my life. And I wanted to write a book about this because I believe that the angels are with us constantly, continuously. And, from the moment we open our eyes in the morning, even before we open our eyes, there's a little tune in our head that's playing. There's a little song. Have you ever noticed that? Like often there's a little song playing in our head. Mm-hmm. Well, to me, that's the angels speaking to us through those words. And if you listen to just those words, well, they're bringing you a message. And then you get up and you have a shower, and maybe in the shower, just when you get out, you have this ingenious idea that pops into your head. Oh, I got to do this today. And you get this feeling comes up in your heart, and you're inspired to do something. Well, that's the angels speaking to us, through our heart. And then we get in our car and we drive to work and we put the radio on. And there's a song on the radio that's inspiring as well, And those are the kinds of messages that I've noticed along my life, like in my life, and that I felt it was grace. And I realized it was the angels that were always there speaking to me. And then when I went to study with Doreen, well, I started talking back to them. So not only was I getting messages from them, but I started talking to them and asking them to help me with certain things. And then my life even became more magical than what it was before, because like everything seemed to fall into place. So that's why I really wanted to write the book, because I noticed that I would ask for something in the morning, and by that night, it was there, like a house. I wanted a house. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. I had this inspiration. Yep, I'm going to get a house. And 8 o'clock that night, I was signing the papers, making an offer. And I would hear people say, well, I talk to my angels, but, they don't talk back, or I don't get messages. Or I ask for something and, I'm not receiving it. So I wanted to share with people how to manifest things like I do, because, I manifest things pretty quickly. So, and I asked the angels, well, what's the difference between what I do and what everybody else does? Like, why is it so easy for me? And so that was kind of the reason why I wanted to write the book, to share that with people.
All right. And when you go in and you're opening up this divine connection to the angels to access their help, are there certain protocols, things we need to do in order to make it a stronger bond? And what about people that are, like I grew up Lutheran, we weren't big into the saints and the angels, you pray to God, you pray to Jesus, and that's about the extent of it. Is it as effective for people that maybe aren't used to calling on the angels and other beings for assistance?
I believe it's effective for everybody because it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. There's angels around everybody. Now, depending on the person and your culture and your beliefs, maybe the angels will look different. Like, for example, people with Irish descent, for example, I see fairies around them. And so they're not angels with angel wings, they're fairies, and they have different kinds of wings. And native people, for example, Aboriginals, they have animals, like animal totems around them. And I had this native lady one time, and instead of it being an angel, it was a big, feminine brown bear that was beside her. And so we all have, we call them angels because they're actually messengers of God, but we all have what I call an entourage. So help, that's around us. And they're there, and they're always willing to help set things up in life so that we're happy and that we're on purpose and that we're fulfilling a mission and that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Because when we're on purpose, we're actually happy.
All right. Well, let's start to take a look at the ways to talk to angels and give us a little background on the angels that are most effective. And again, I always hear Gabriel and Michael and Azazel and all these other names, but it seems like if everybody's calling on them, how the hell do they have time to focus on all of these people's requests and go to battle or do us this bidding?
Well, angels are like, I think the word is multidimensional. Like, they can be with more than one person at a time. And when I give classes, I teach people that the most important angel that you want to remember is Michael, because Michael is the protector. So if you're in a situation where you're in danger or something, like, Michael's the person you want to call out to. But in general, I don't even encourage people to speak to a certain archangel or to remember a certain name because it's not important, because angels don't have egos. So they don't really care if you get the right name, as long as you speak to them. And so when I speak to them, for example, I'll say something like, "Thank you, my loving angels, for this and this and that." And I always thank them in advance for whatever it is I want. That's one of the important things when we're asking for something, excuse me, is to thank them in advance. Because if we ask them, for example, if we ask them for patience, well, they're going to give us a situation to develop patience.
Ooh.
But if we thank them in advance for the patience that we already have it. So it doesn't matter what it is that we want or need. If we thank them in advance, it's like saying, I already have it, so it's already there. So, for example, finances, that's usually a really, really big thing with everybody. So when I need money, I'm going to say, okay, thank you guys for bringing me, exactly what I need to do this. And they do. So I don't plead, I don't beg. I just thank them in advance for whatever it is I need. Like, for example, last year I moved, and I left a relationship, and so financially I was like, not in the red, but anyway, down to zero. So I sat down one day and I calculated exactly what I needed for the month. And I said to my angels, I said, thank you for bringing me exactly what I need to pay my bills this month. And I just said that prayer and I let it go. I didn't say it every day. I just let that go. And then I got to work. I got busy. And then at the end of the month, I sat down and I calculated exactly what I had made. And I didn't look at it like during the week, because if you start calculating during the week, everybody that you have booked is going to cancel, because that's the way it works. So only at the end of the month did I calculate what I made, and it was exactly what I had asked for. So and to me, that's the most important part, is to thank them in advance for what you want. And, sometimes I will say to them, like, I don't know how you're going to do this. And the how is not important. That's their job. But I would say, I don't know how you're going to do this, but you know exactly what I need. So thank you for taking care of this, And the incredible thing about it is that they'll find ways to answer our prayers beyond anything we can even imagine. Like, for example, there was a time where financially, things were tight. And so I said to them, I said, look, I'm going to need some money. So thank you for taking care of this. Thank you for, bringing me what I need financially. I had one big event lined up. And 30 minutes later, after I said my prayer, this person called me out and canceled. I was devastated. And I'm like, okay, I really trust you guys. So I know you got something bigger and better for me. So I'm going to trust. I'm going to let it go. And then the next day, another lady called me and asked me to do an event. And it ended up being the biggest event I've ever done. And the most incredible, wonderful thing about it was I didn't have any preparation to do, because it was a workshop that I've been doing for the past 10 years. So I just needed to show up and do it. So it was amazing.
Well, now, let me ask,
but you have to have that belief.
If you're putting these things out there, did you not put out to the universe, I want to meet, thank you for helping me meet the man that will love me, be honest and filling. And I mean, if you're sensitive and you're a medium, mm-hmm. and you know how to call upon the angels, how'd you end up in a bad relationship? And I don't mean that derogatory, but I know that that's what a lot of the listeners will be considering.
Yes. Well, that's an excellent question, because, we have to be careful about what it is we ask for, mm-hmm. okay? Because I wrote a book about love, and I manifested this person that had exactly everything that I had asked for. But what wasn't in the book, which I didn't realize when I wrote the book, it was only afterwards. Sometimes we only see things after the fact. But there was a period, like maybe a month before, and I remember, having a conversation with God and my angels, and I was saying to them, I said, I know what you want me to do. And I said, but I'm not sure I have the courage and the strength to do it alone. And I said, I'd really like to have somebody in my life that I could depend on, somebody to support me, and not financially, but support me, in what you want me to do. And that was a prayer in itself, and I didn't realize it at the time. And what I was going through at that time too, I had an occupational burnout. So I was tired, and I didn't quite have the energy, and I was insecure. I had just made a big move to a new city, and I didn't know anybody. So that was, my frame of mind when I said this prayer. So anyway, I ended up meeting this person that I had called into my life that had everything, exactly what I asked for on my list. And it turned out not to be quite, what was good for me. And I mean, I can't lie to people and say that I didn't know as we were, advancing this relationship, but I didn't have the strength and the courage at the time to be assertive. So this relationship, when I ended it, as difficult as it was to leave, it made me realize that my prayer, in fact, was saying to God in some sort of way that what I really needed was the strength and the courage, to do things on my own, to be strong. And that's what this relationship brought me. So I can't be angry about it. I was for a little period of time there at the end of the relationship. But in hindsight, I see the gift in that. I see that they brought me exactly what I wanted and what I needed. And that was strength, that was courage, and certainly faith, because I have much more faith now in them than I ever had before, because I had no choice than to put all of my faith in them. So it was a gift in disguise, but it was a gift just the same.
Well, I understand trying to look on the bright side of life and looking for that, but it seems, so many people are focused on finding love and finding somebody to help complete them. And maybe that's the problem. We're already complete. It's somebody we should be asking to compliment us and make our lives better by being a part of our life. And I understand that whole aspect, but it also seems, my problem in the medium world and dealing with angels, there seems to be too many stupid loopholes in games. Why does it have to be that? It's like the old monkey paw story, right? Be careful what you ask for, because you may get it and it may not be what you wanted. Obviously the intent was, and the desire was, to find somebody to love me and treat me right and be the person to fill that hole, not just fill a temporary gap. But they give us these little bits. When we ask mediums for signs from their from loved ones or angels, it's always clouded and veiled in BS and symbology. Instead of just telling us, yes, the key is underneath the front mat, it's always some hinky-dinky kind of responses. Why isn't the other side just more forthcoming? That would seal the deal. It would help faith. It would enable people to believe easier if they could just see a little bit more concise comment or concise response from these beings.
Well, I think we're all here to evolve. So the whole point of everything we live, but this is my perception anyway, so far in my life, everything that I've ever lived, no matter if it's a paper cut or it's a heartache, it's all there to bring me the same message. It's always love yourself more. It's always about loving myself. So the more I love myself and the more I'm at peace with myself, the easier my life is. Life is very simple. We complicate it. Life is very simple because there's only, two paths in life. Actually, there's one path, and the path is love, and the path is peace. So when we're at peace, we're on the right path. And if we're not at peace, it's because something is off. We kind of got off track, and we just need to ask ourselves, okay, well, where am I off track? Is it in my family, my friendships, my work, my love relationships, or my money? Where am I off track? And to fix that part of our life, to come back and to be centered in peace. It's as simple as that. But we complicate it. We're the ones that look at it in a complicated way. But life is very simple.
Life is very simple, but it seems like it's not. I mean, if it were so simple, man and women would have a better communication. The understanding of faith and belief would be an open spigot as opposed to this kind of tight, finalized, thin trickle of information leading you and forcing you to believe more in this generalized godlike being as opposed to something benevolent and marvelous that makes itself known to people. Do you know what I'm saying with that?
Well, I think it's because of the way we're raised too. There's a lot of things that are involved in life. I mean, there's always like this angelic magic side, but we have to look at the realistic, side of life where we're all raised in a certain way to look at life in a certain way. And we always, we haven't all had a good upbringing, for example. It wasn't always easy for people. And that makes us, fearful sometimes of people. So we've been taught not to be honest, not to speak openly, not to be assertive, because we're always afraid. That's the thing that keeps us small and that keeps us in a bad place is fear. We're afraid of losing other people's love. And that's what it's all about. That's why life gets difficult. It's fear. There's only two things in life. There's love and fear. And if we're not, peaceful and loving, we're actually in fear. And that's where things go off track. So we're afraid to speak up to somebody because we're afraid of losing their love. But if we learned how to be assertive, but, being in our heart, like without being aggressive, there'd be no issues. with people, because we'd be all saying exactly what's in our heart.
All right,
and there would.
We have to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about requests and angel intervention or positive intent. How do we draw that derision line? I mean, it seems like what our guest is talking about is what was covered in the book The Secret. And when you manifest and put out the intent for something to come your way, it opens you up to more positivity. Do we need the angels to deliver these things, or is that power within us? There are references throughout the Bible that we have these powers. We are given this. We just have to learn to call upon them and use them. We'll find out more from our guest when we return, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Beyond the darkness.
And this is Beyond the Darkness. I'm Dave. That's Tim. Hey, join me out at the Oddfellows Asylum in Liberty, Missouri. You've been wanting to find a reason to come on out, hang out with me, my buddies Chris Fleming and Bill Chappell. Jason Offit's going to join us, the Black Eyed Kids expert. We're going to be investigating the Belvoir Winery, the Oddfellows Asylum. And if you're not familiar with it, look it up, research the information, or you can go right to darknessevents.com, click on the banner, and you'll find out more about it. We're going to have 2 days of presentations, 2 nights of investigations. Get your hands on and get involved in a paranormal investigation for yourself. It is always fun and fascinating. We have a great time when we go out to these locations, and we'd love for you to join us on this. It's going to be kept to a smaller group of about 50 to 60 people. They'll be broken up into smaller groups for the investigation. And last time we were there, we had such an amazing time. And there's so many great things to do and explore while you're out there. We're also going to be going out to England in August. Our September event completely sold out to England. So we're doing the British Invasion First Wave this August. And I'd love for you to join me on that. We've only got about 10 spots that remain. And you will get a chance to tour England. You're going to see historic sites. You're going to see amazing things and chances to investigate Castle Rising, investigate Derby Jail, and more. That's right. Hands-on paranormal investigating overseas. I'll be there. Neil Story, the historian and researcher, will be our guide on this tour, and he is putting together an amazing program. You will be entertained, you will be educated and enlightened on a daily basis. It includes your breakfast, dinners, it includes the bus rides, it includes access to these locations that we're going to be going to, your hotel stays. It's just a great time. Go check it out, darknessevents.com, and become part of the fun. You'll find out why so many people return to us year after year to go check out all these great locations. Today, Lucinda Gabriel is our guest. We're discussing her book, How to Talk to Angels, a practical guide to asking for guidance, comfort, and strength. And Lucinda, talking about the engaging of the angels, many people do this. I don't call on the angels, but I have manifested quite a few things by just putting it out to, this is what I need. I need there to be a change in my life. And once I've kind of opened myself up to that possibility and stop seeing the roadblocks and start seeing the opportunities, it happens. Is that the angels working on my behalf because I'm stepping up and, God rewards those that put in the effort? Or how does that all work?
Well, I believe, yes, it's the angels that's stepping up. As soon as we open up, whether we believe in angels or not, they're there. That's my belief, So my belief is no matter who you are or what you believe, there's angels around you, and they're working in front of you. And, just give you an example. One day I was in my new apartment, and I have an amazing view in the front, on the river in Quebec City. And I was stood up in my kitchen, and I looked at the back window, and I just thought, wow, I said, I'm so blessed that when I look out my back window, I don't have a building with windows of people looking back at me. And I just felt so much gratitude in my heart that, I have such a beautiful place. And because I could have been in the next building beside here and have people looking back at me. And at that moment, I got this idea, this knowing that came into my heart. And to me, it was the angels. And they were saying to me that if you only knew how much we are in front of you, making sure that everything is absolutely perfect and exactly what you need. You'd be on your knees all the time, asking and being grateful for things. And it was just one of those like magical moments when I just like, wow, it was like an epiphany. So I believe the angels are there, and they're always trying to work things out for us if we allow them to. And like you said, if you just open yourself up and stop looking at the roadblocks and you start looking for ways for things to happen, just the fact that you want things to work out, and you can say, you know, you call it angels, universe, God, or whatever, you just hand over control of your life to something greater than you and say, look, you take care of it. And just let it go. And you'll see that everything will just, you know, magically fall into place, and even better than we could even imagine ourselves.
So one of the key components, if I'm hearing you properly, is living, and I know this sounds cheesy and hippy-dippy, but it's living in an attitude of gratitude. Instead of acting like you are deserving of these things and acting like it should just be delivered unto you, being thankful and showing gratitude for the things that you have, you believe that will open up and change what occurs for us.
Gratitude to me is the biggest key. Like to be grateful in advance for things that we would like, but just to be simply grateful. Like the moment I realize I'm starting to wake up in the morning, I start saying in my head, you know, everything that I'm grateful for. And I try to remain grateful all day long for everything. And that keeps my energy up. When you were talking earlier about the law of attraction, I do believe in the law of attraction. And when we keep our energy level up by being grateful, by being at peace, by being loving and compassionate, you know, that's our vibrational energy is higher, and we attract things on that same level. So there, like to me, there's no big difference between the law of attraction and the angels, like because angels are not like necessarily outside of ourselves. They're part of who we are. It was like God or universe or love or whatever you want to call it, creator is part of us as well. Like we're not separated. Like you and I are not separate, even though you're in another city. You know, there's a connection, an energetic connection between everybody. So none of us are really separate. So the law of attraction is kind of the same way. When we can bring our vibration level up high enough, we can manifest absolutely anything.
All right. And getting comfort and strength from the angels or from within, you know, do you believe that part of it is, do we block ourselves because we don't feel worthy, because we don't feel like we should be? You know, I talked about earlier how I'm kind of, you know, I feel like asking the angels for, you know, helping me with rent this month or, you know, delivering me things I need. That gives me a guilt sensation, but should I get over that?
Absolutely. That's one of the things I talk about in my book is people in general don't feel deserving. I really believe, and this is what the angels have told me, is that we're meant to be, you know, living peacefully and healthfully, have love in our lives and abundance in our lives. We're meant to have all that goodness. And the only thing that's preventing that goodness from coming into our lives is our sense of worthiness. So if we can bring ourselves into a place where we feel worthy and deserving, well, all of these things will flow into our life. And it comes back, like you said, to the law of attraction a bit, you know. We'll attract those things into our life. Our angels will bring it into our life because we're allowing them to come in. But if we don't feel worthy because we haven't been good, you know, we've done bad things to people, or we're angry, we're resentful, you know, one of the exercises in my book is forgiveness, for example. We really need to, and this is what the angels told me back in 2004 when I did a reading for someone, and they said to that person, look at your life, everything that happened up until now, write down the name of every person that hurt you and every person that you hurt, and do a forgiveness towards those people and forgive yourself as well. Because when we forgive them, we let go of the hurt and the resentment. And when we forgive ourselves, well, we're worthy. We feel worthy. And we cannot attract something into our life. We cannot allow something into our lives if we don't feel worthy of it.
That makes a lot of sense. I think we are the trappings of our own destiny, and we get sometimes so vested under the dark cloud of what we believe we deserve, and sometimes it's freeing to get out of that cloud and open it up. Again, whether you're religious or not, it's in understanding that we have more control. And that's what I've been more about in the last couple of years. And trust me, it's been a rough 6 months in my life, as it has been in many people's life. And it's real easy to give into the darkness. It's real easy to give into the poor woe's me stuff. And how do we shake that off? And you know what? The sickening, stupid part, Lucinda, is that I've seen it happen. Tim, you've seen it happen. We set our mind at something and it happens.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if you would have told us 12 years ago we'd be on 5 days a week, right? Right. And filling in for Coast to Coast AM, it was a pipe dream. It was a fun idea.
Yeah.
Right? But it was there. We just opened up that spigot and it just came out because we never questioned it once we did it.
Right.
And whenever we've put ourselves in the position, personally or in business, for success, it happens, right? Right. That doesn't mean there isn't setbacks. Sometimes there are things that don't follow through the way we necessarily need them to be, but that doesn't mean we're living under a cloud. It doesn't mean that we're being forgotten about. It just might mean that, we're not as focused on it, or we're not as in a place of understanding what we truly are looking to do, and succeed. It's about focus in our life. And taking the time to pay attention to what it is we need, pay attention to what it is we're willing to put into it to succeed. We've become a nation in a world of whiny crybabies that want everything just delivered to us with no effort at all. And sometimes when it's even as simple as just asking for it, we're like, why should I ask for it? I should just get it, right? And that causes its own issues.
Exactly. And, and I hear people say that all the time. Like, I shouldn't have to tell them what I want or what I need. They should know. And they're not talking about angels. These are people talking about their brothers and sisters or daughters or mothers. Like, people are just not being assertive and saying, look, this is what my need is, right? And so if they're not doing it with the people around them, they're probably not doing it with the angels as well.
Right. We measure.
We really need.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's okay.
I was just going to say, we measure others by the yardstick of our own intentions and beliefs, because we know this is the way we would handle a situation. We're offended by others that don't react in the same way. And we need to knock it off. Everybody has their own damn way of dealing with stuff. We're not inherently psychic, even though, like you said, we're communicating. We're all together kind of attached. It doesn't mean that I know what you need and I don't know what you're feeling. You have to tell me. You have to be open, because we all know we get that sense, oh, is there something wrong? And Tim goes, no, never mind. Or don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong. There's something wrong. But instead of just assuming I'm going to pick up on what's wrong and fix it, most people are fixers. We all want to make life better for ourselves and for others. And if you give us the permission, much like you're saying with angels, give us the permission to help and aid and make things better, we'll all get along better, I think.
Absolutely. It's exactly the same thing.
The idea of healing modality, you're a certified Reiki master. That's moving energy from blocked potential, right? From ways that we're blocking ourselves, whether it's guilt, it's anger, it's aggression, it's oppression of feelings. It's shifting. It's breaking the dams down to allow our bodies to heal and our energy and modality to do that. So in essence, we are kind of our own angels, right? It's calling upon ourselves, calling upon the divine within all of us that does exist. Whether you believe in God or not, we're powerful beings. We have so much capability that we shelve because we follow the lemmings, we follow the world, and we buy into it too easy when things don't go right. But we have this innate ability to make things happen.
I totally agree with that. And I don't do a whole lot of Reiki anymore. I teach it. And I love to teach it because I think it's something that's very powerful. It gives people their power back. And I believe, dis-ease is just a signal from our angels again, through our bodies saying you're not at ease, you're not happy, you're not in the right place, or you're living in fear. There's a feeling that's not at ease in our bodies. I had colitis for 12 years, and it wasn't until I actually meditated. I was off, like I said, on a burnout from work, and so at one point I decided to start meditating, and I would do this every day for 20, 30 minutes, and I could feel what was going on in my body. And that's when I noticed, like, I was just living with this stress all the time. And it was this underlying feeling of fear and insecurity. And when I was breathing into this, into these feelings that I had, and I was sending it love into my body, I actually managed to bring my body in a state of peace. And I could hold on to that state of peace for longer and longer every day. And within a couple of weeks, all my symptoms disappeared. It was just like magic. And that was just, by meditating. So I believe that, this ease is just there in our bodies, showing us that there's something wrong in our lives that we need to take time to look at. And we can heal ourselves. I really believe we can heal ourselves from everything.
That's a great point too. Taking back that power all the way around. For people right now that do want to start changing, I know time's going to slip away from us quick here, Lucinda. Let's go through kind of, if you can map kind of an A to Z for us real quickly, just some key points, bullet points, so people can start to make a difference today. As soon as they turn off this podcast, something they can put into effect.
Well, I would suggest to people to just ask the angels, show me a sign that you're present. And they can ask for something very specific. Like, for example, 3/4, or show me a heart, maybe the next song that I put on the radio, like, let these words be, speak to my heart, or something like that. You can ask for something extremely specific from the angels to show you that they're there. And I so believe that they want you to know that they're beside you. So they will go out of their way to do something to give you a sign. And it'll be so incredible that you won't have any other choice than to believe them. So that's the first thing. Ask for a sign. Second of all, ask them for help. And the way you ask for help is always to be grateful in advance. So thank you, my darling angels, Michael, or, like I said, I don't put a name on them. I just thank my angels for whatever it is I need. And I firmly believe in my heart that I'm deserving of it. God feeds the birds. He's going to feed me too. So I believe that. So whenever I ask for something, I remind myself of that. Everybody's deserving of something very good. And so, you have to believe, and you ask, and then you let go. Never mind how it's going to happen. Just trust that, it's going to happen in a way that you least expect it, and when you least expect it. And so just let it go, and be grateful. Always be grateful in advance for whatever it is that you want. So to me, that's the basic recipe. You ask, you believe. Imagination helps a lot too. You can imagine whatever it is you want, because when you imagine something in your mind, it's like you're sending a message to them saying, this is what I would like, this or something better. So, and believe and trust that they're there, that they're listening, and just be grateful and allow it to come. And sometimes if it doesn't come right away, it's not because they don't want to bring it to you. Maybe you're not allowing it to come in. Maybe it's not a good time. Maybe it's not the best thing for you. And they're protecting you. I know people that have been trying to sell a house for 3 years. And the message the angels gave to me is like, trust us. We're protecting you. You don't want to let go of your house and be more in debt with something else, because it's not a good time for that right now. So always trust that whatever is happening, everything is always perfect.
Lucinda, I got to know, too, is it, I guess you may think of this as a more pessimistic view, but is it possible that angels do let us down? I mean, it seems, you could say, well, no, everything is all perfect in heaven and everything is all perfect with angels. But, somewhere, sometime, somehow, some way, not everything can be absolutely perfect all the time. Do you know of a case or cases where angels do let you down?
Well, I can't say that my life has been, a straight, easy road. But if I look back on my life, I see that I really believe that everything was always perfect. Everything brought me exactly what I needed. It wasn't easy in the sense that like my relationship, for example, I got married and it didn't last long. I got divorced and it was hard. And I went through a lot of the emotions of shame, like just having to leave and start over and everything. But when I look back on it now, like I said, with hindsight, I can see the gifts that situation brought me. So in the moment when you're living it, you just want to die. Like I remember where I was, and I just wanted to die. I was feeling so much shame, and I felt like the angels had deserted me. I really did. But they were always there waiting beside me and just waiting for me to ask them for help. And when I woke up one morning and I said, okay, I have to do something about this. And that's when I really started to pray again. And, I talked to them. I was like, look, I don't know how you're going to get me out of this, but you're going to need to give me some strength and courage to change my life around because, I need to move on. And it was either that or just go home, and I felt I had things to do. So I just prayed really hard that morning. And I prayed for 14 days. And on the 14th day, I woke up. And I had the strength and the courage to turn my life around. And it just built up inside of me, and there was no stopping me. And like I said, when I look back, I can see it now, and I can see the perfection of everything I lived, because I'm not the same person that I was 3 years ago before I met that guy. I'm strong, and I'm courageous. I have faith that I never had before. And it's all because I lived that. So I really, truly believe that in life, everything really is perfect. It doesn't look like it when you're in, the valley, and it's hard and you don't know how to get out of it. But when you pray really hard and you trust.
Isn't that a letdown, though? Because let's look at it from a different side. If you're in an abusive situation or in a bad situation, wouldn't you think that as kind of a little bit of a different side or a different view, your angels would say, okay, we got to get her out of this situation. Rather than directly interfering, let's do a little something to change her perspective. She's at work or she's in a park somewhere. Let's send a guy her way. Like, let's say she's in trouble. Her car breaks down. Let's send a guy who truly is a helpful guy who changes her perspective, changes her worldview, and shows her that not every guy is like the guy that she's in the relationship with. Here's this guy who comes along, helps her out, is a perfect gentleman, and says, you know what, if you ever need anything, here's my number. And all of a sudden, there's your perspective. There's your worldview that's changed. And all of a sudden, you've been given that gentle nudge, and your angels have come in and they've helped you there. You don't have to sit there and beg and plead. To me, that seems like there's where your angels have let you down. Now, is that a pessimistic view on my part, or am I right?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but you see, when somebody's in that situation, and they're in an abusive relationship, they can't see, even if somebody nice shows up, they cannot see it because they're so stuck in this situation in the darkness that they cannot see the light. So even if the angels are there and they're putting all kinds of beautiful things in front of the person cannot see it. And because things have to come from within. Everything starts within. It has to come from inside of us. Like, we need to want to change. We need to want to have a better life. It has to start within. So, I mean, the angels could be there putting a red carpet in front of me with Richard Gere, and like I wouldn't even have seen them because I was such in a bad state that I couldn't see anything good. And it wasn't until I had the will inside of me to want to see something better did it actually happen.
Why couldn't they put a girlfriend?
So it has to come from within.
Why couldn't they put a girlfriend in your life who's going through the exact same situation and say to you, hey, I'm going through the exact same thing you are right now. Let's be best friends. Let's get through this together. I mean, there's different scenarios
right,
here.
Tim, but I think what she's getting at is the fact that most of us don't take the time to ask. We would rather sit and wallow in self-pity and feel like the world has screwed us instead of picking ourselves up, dusting ourselves off, and saying, okay, I can't get through this on my own. And we've heard this from the beginning of the show, Tim. We have to give the angels the ability to intervene in our behalf because we have free will. Oh, yeah. And if we are just moping and whining, the angels may be there shaking their heads just like we would as fathers and uncles watching our kids do stupid things. And, you're like, hey, all you need to do is ask, buddy. Just ask me for help and daddy will pick it up for you. And sometimes I think it's that simple. And we want to examine it and instead of simplifying things and just saying, okay, I need some help here. God, you're listening. Angels, Michael, Gabrielle, Peter Tork, whatever angel you believe in. I need your help. And this is what I need, and be specific about it. Because again, whether you're really calling upon the angels or you're clearing the debris in front of you, right? You watch The Walking Dead, Tim. They're driving down the road trying to get out. Oh, crap. There's just tree after tree in front of them. Right. And, you look at that massive mound of trees and it looks insurmountable. But if you go up and you just start cutting away inch by inch, everything's a cinch. You look at it yard by yard, everything's hard. And sometimes it's taking the steps forward, getting through the thicket and moving past it that puts you where you need to be. And it's a scary deal. When I was stuck on the side of the mountain back in 85, 86 with Paul, when we were at Pedagine Mountain, and I looked at this thicket, my overwhelming fear of the outdoors and snakes. I knew the only way to get to safety was to crawl over this massive thicket of rattling, shaking, hissing thistle and crap. And it was the most terrifying thing I've ever had to face at that point. So I did what I had to do. I backed up on the mountain. I had to run fast uphill, hit this thing, and try to get over it. And I didn't know if I was going to hit it and fall through into a giant snake pit. I didn't know what was there, but the fact was, standing there was not an option. Dying on the side of a mountain in a torrential rainstorm wasn't an option. So in order to get over it, and I appreciated life a lot more when I hit that hot road at the top of the leap, I had to get through this. But sometimes it's just making the call and asking for the help and asking for the direction. And then when you've silenced your mind from all the, oh God, everything sucks and it's always, people are always crapping on my parade and I can't get anywhere and this is wrong and that's wrong. Your mind is so cluttered, you can't hear the answer.
Right. But I guess my point, too, is that not everybody has the tools to ask for the help that they need at that particular time. And that's where, to me, it seems like that's where the disconnect's going to be. You can't ask an angel for help if you don't know what kind of help you need.
Oh, we all know. It's just the inherent wallow. Again, once you start to silence the wallow, give up the got to and look at it as get to. You start looking through this, and I know it sounds all romantic-y, but I just keep looking back, and I keep kicking myself in the ass because I allow myself to fall into these places too. But whenever I look at the moments in my life where changes, have come, whether it's in taking that risk and telling someone how I feel about her, and knowing that I'm up for a massive rejection, and I did it anyway, and it turned into an amazing moment for me. And opened up a doorway that I hadn't had open before. That's great. Or taking a stab at, when things were going haywire with the show, we said, this is what we need. We need 5 days a week. We don't want this 1 hour a week crap on Podcast One. We want to own the paranormal on Podcast One. And they said, okay, you got it. You do it. We don't do this. You guys can do it. So it was once we took out the self-doubt and the resounding echo of failure from our mind and we focused on what we needed, it came to us.
Absolutely. Right? It's the way it works. Yep. And
I think that's the point is sometimes we want to believe we don't have the power. And that's because that's what we're told. But we're not victims. We all have to stop living the life of a victim. All of us, myself included. I'm not preaching at you, Tim, but I'm just saying we need to stop living the life of a victim. Yeah. And once you got tired of feeling sick, once you got tired of the stuff and you started to step up, Tim, you got things handled. You're losing weight. You're eating better. You're taking care of yourself. You got your teeth fixed. You got your foot fixed. You're starting to get into better shape. People are saying, hey, you're looking kind of sexy. You've got something going. And had you just sat there wallowing.
Well, there's sailors on the pier, Dave.
Well, everybody needs love somewhere, teddy bear.
I know.
But my point is that once you took the action, and sometimes it was just cutting out the BS and doing what needs to be done, that's when the answers came. And it's there. We don't always understand the answers. We don't always understand where we're at, but we've got blind faith that I don't need God. I don't need a Jesus. I don't need an angel to hold my hand through this. They gave me all the tools I need. What I need to do is stand up and take what's given to me and what is allowable to me. And I think we keep putting up our own crap, and that's what keeps us all back from succeeding. The difference between Dave Schrader and Donald Trump, aside from really bad hair, is the fact that one person believes in himself. And it isn't conceit. It's confidence. Mm-hmm. It isn't arrogance. It's, he believes, as my friend Phil Spizzeri told me growing up. He goes, dude, you think I'm conceited? I'm just convinced. I've been told my whole life how amazing I am at everything I do. I'm not conceited. Mm-hmm. I believe what everybody says.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Yeah. And, we're only another 30 to 50 years away from being as rich and famous as Donald Trump. Tim.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just that's it. 30 to 50 years.
Yeah.
Or sooner if we put a little bit more effort into it. But it is there, right, Lucinda? We just have to ask for the intervention. We have to ask for them to come in and do this work.
It's like the electricity in the wall. It's always there. We just need to plug into it. It's always there. We just need to plug into it to turn the lights on. It's as simple as that.
Well, this is the time. Listen, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was just going to say, I was thinking about the story that Tim was saying just now about, remember the guy, there's a story about this guy, and he's in a storm, and he's on the water, and he's praying to God to come and help him. And, somebody comes by with a branch. He's like, no, God's coming to get me. And then he prays, and, a helicopter comes by, and he's like, no, God's coming to get me. And then eventually he dies, and he ends up on the other side. And he says, how come you didn't come to get me? And he's like, well, I sent you, a boat, and then I sent you an helicopter, and, you didn't recognize the signs, right? And basically that's what it is. When you're in a place, sometimes you just don't see what's going on around you. You're the one had to have the willing inside of you to want that help and then to look for that.
Right, and stop looking to the sky for the lightning bolt. Start looking in front of you, and you'll start to see the progression of what might be opening up or building in front of you. And that's what we need to move forward.
Absolutely.
And I'm a firm believer in that. When you're asking for a sign, the sign doesn't always come painted as a sparkly unicorn like you want it to. Sometimes it's a 4-leaf clover. And if you're so focused on finding the sign you want, you might need the sign you could have gotten.
Right. Absolutely.
Listen, this is why we did this show, folks, is we're coming into Easter, and whether you're religious or not, the idea of rebirth, the idea of a renewed life is what this time of year is about, right? Spring has sprung. All of that is laid dormant is now coming back to life. The rain has brought about green grass and has brought about leaves and trees and change. And that's the same thing that's within us. You can shake off the briars and brambles of the crap weather that we've been under and expose the green grass and give it a chance to breathe and grow and become something better than you've been before. Or you can continue to heap more garbage on that spot and that grass will never grow. This is about rebirth. It's about taking back your life and creating something new from it. And I hope that's what people get from the show and from books like yours, Lucinda. How to Talk to Angels, a practical guide to asking for guidance, comfort, and strength. And Lucinda, if people have questions or want to reach out to you, can they just get you through the website, lucindagabriel.com?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Go on lucindagabriel.com.
Thank you so much for your insights and for sharing your time with us today.
Well, thank you for the great interview. I really enjoyed it.
Well, that's it for today, folks. We'll be back tomorrow. Joseph Marino joins us. History Mystery, the Shroud of Turin is on tap. We want to thank our advertisers and sponsors, Audible. Remember, the podcast has been brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audio download and a 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/darkness. Select out of 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or your MP3 player. Again, that's audibletrial.com/darkness. And when you're in the mood, and you're looking for a new car and you want to take control of your life, you want to get all that confidence back, make sure you visit True Car to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. And when you do it, make sure you go mark it on social media and tell True Car you heard about it here on Beyond the Darkness. Our friend George Norrie has a hell of a show in store for you tonight. Coast to Coast AM, a great compliment to the best in paranormal talk radio, is the best in overnight talk radio. You can hear that 7 days a week. And tonight, George Norrie will be looking at UFO investigations and Colonel Corso. First half, physicist and UFO investigator Stanton Friedman will be discussing the latest in his UFO research involving science as well as MUFON, truths about the Roswell incident, government UFO cover-ups, and his own personal theories and more. And in the second half of the show, investigative reporter Paola Harris talks about extraterrestrial related phenomena and her research in ufology. She'll share her covered interview with the late great Colonel Philip Corso and enlighten us with recent investigations. You can find more information, you can find show topics and more, and you can sign up to become a Coast Insider, which will give you access to 5 years of past archives. That includes every interview I've ever done and every interview I've ever hosted on the best in overnight talk radio. Check it out, coasttocoastam.com. Become a Coast Insider. 1 year subscription breaks down to 15 cents a day to give you thousands upon thousands of hours of amazing content. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. It's time to start and rebirth yourself now, folks. Get the control back. You're not weak. You're not a victim. You do not have to live like you're living anymore. It is within your grasp. Just ask for the help. Give yourself permission to get help, and I promise your life will turn around. We're going to try to do that and put more effort into that as well. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. Thank you to our guests this evening, and we'll be back again tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.